e Māori and welcome back to the Kokonē. I'm Marana Whangaiwamola. Now, Samoa's very own set of Usos of the Opera, Sole Mio, have just released a new album. It's our first glimpse of new Bessies from the boys since their much acclaimed A Very Merry Christmas was released in 2018. They're back in the whale with their third and latest studio album, Coming Home, and the boys Amitai Pati and Moses Mackay are beaming into the Kokonē now. Boys, Malo, firstly, you're back. Where have you been?
Oh, it's we've been all over Auckland City. It's been tough being here in Tamaki Makaurau, but it's a good time for us to sort of reflect on what we've been doing over the last couple of years, and being able to focus on new projects coming up as well. So if anything, it's been a good time for us to just knuckle down, focus on what the positives are, and kind of just look out for each other. So it's good. We're good. We're in a good headspace.
Yeah, as you can see, there's only two of us because the other guy, he's currently in Paris. So he's just finished a run with Paris Opera, and he's just taken off to Amsterdam. So he got out before we went into lockdown. So yeah. So he's still working. So that part of the world, he's still able to work. They just have vaccine passports and stuff. So yeah.
Talo Fai, who is he there with?
So it's him and his wife, but because she's an opera singer as well, she's off doing her own performances. So she's currently in Strasbourg, and he's making his way to Amsterdam, of course, until the end of the year. So they're kind of in the same area, but not together. But at the same time, they're keeping in touch with each other, and he's also talking to us with the breakfast show. So it still makes him feel like he's at home.
Yeah, that's mean. How have you guys and your ainga been through lockdown here in New Zealand?
Well, for me, I live out on my own, and so I've been keeping in contact with my family through WhatsApp, online calls and things. Everybody's doing really well. My parents are both nurses, so it's a bit of a struggle sometimes talking to them and knowing that they're on the front line. They do talk about work sometimes, but I try to change the subject just so that they can have something else to talk about. Don't have to talk about COVID all the time, that sort of thing. But it's nice to catch up with them. It's nice to make sure that everybody's still thinking positively, making sure that they're keeping themselves busy, as well as just the old catch up, just trying to talk to them and just keep in contact. I think that's the main thing for us right now.
And my family's there. We're here in Tamaki Makaurau, but some of them are also up north, up in Ruakaka, up in Northland. So yeah, like Amitai said, it's just keeping in contact, just making sure everyone's still okay. Obviously, this lockdown's been really long. It's been the longest one here in Tamaki Makaurau. So checking up on people has become a thing of importance as of late.
Let's move on to Coming Home now. There's 12 tracks, lots of feel-good jams to get us through, these Korviki times. How is it like being back in the studio and recording again?
It was so we recorded this album back in April, just after we did a nationwide tour, and in all honesty, it was super nice to be able to jam with the boys again, because this is basically what the album is. It's just us coming together, making some music, making some cool memories. We completely forgot that the recording equipment was there. It's just us having a live jam session together, making some tunes, and sort of just like bringing together the things that we've learned from our time as opera singers. So it's just nice to get the creativity going, and to share that with the producers and our management as well.
One of the coolest things about Coming Home, we've traveled around the world a lot, and we've been blessed to have the careers that we're having. But when you come home, you have the food, you have the family. But one of my favorite memories growing up is when the guitar comes out. It's when the music starts to play. It's when the sing-alongs happen. It's when everyone just picks their harmony and you just go, and you could be singing until like 2 a.m. You all could be singing, and I always walk away from those moments, or I remember specific moments where I really miss that. Especially when I'm away from home, like I really miss that singing and that engagement, and I think we really take advantage. We don't take advantage of it in that moment, and so the whole impetus with this album was to kind of record that live music so that we could gift it to people, and so that they could play it in their homes and sing along with us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's very much like a push, play, and join in kind of album. That's the whole kind of concept of it being played live.
Mm.
The whole thing's played live, literally just one take, and then
Mm-hmm.
and that's it. So it's
just one take. Wow.
One take. We did it in 3 days, and the whole album was done.
And if it didn't feel right, we'd be like, let's stop it, let's do it, take it from the top again. We'll just go through the whole thing. Just let like none of those sort of like cutting up segments and things, trying to piece things together. If it didn't work, we do the whole thing again, which is,
and that's the beauty of it. That's the magic of performing live, is that it's not always going to be perfect.
Yeah.
But there is perfection and imperfections, and that's where the liveness comes out. There's no auto tune, none of that stuff, none of that.
You will hear the emotion. I swear. Some of these tracks, you can hear the raw emotion in it, and the cool thing is that we got to say, let's just leave it in there. I think people will relate to it if they hear that we're super vulnerable in these songs as well. So it's one for the people, that's for sure.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It is one for the people, and I did have a listen myself, and it gives off those Kikala and Kava vibes that, when you just gathered around, everyone sits on the floor, and as you say, it's like jamming till 2 a.m. and you've got church the next day, and then you keep on singing. So
you're gonna hear a lot of sort of like light bulb moments where somebody's singing the melody, and then a harmony comes in from out of nowhere, and it just fits. At that point, we were just like vibing in the studio, and it was like, just keep going, whatever you feel, just keep going. And that's how we ended up with the album.
Oh, that's so good. I think it's quite a reflection of your journey as artists. I suppose like when you started off, it was like very manufactured, this is your first album, guys, rah. And now you have developed your artistry to a point where you can, call the shots. And as you say, just make it flowy, spontaneous. And that's where the good stuff comes from, eh?
Absolutely. And people relate to it as well, the world itself is not, it's a difficult place to be in, especially during this time. So, if people can hear you being genuine in your voice, and especially when it comes to singing as well, you want to portray the fact that you're being real. What you're giving in your songs is absolutely you, and not something that's produced, not something that's technically altered to make it sound nice for people. It's just you being you, and when people realize that you're being real, that's when the connection happens, and that's what we want.
But I feel like it's not just us. I mean, I feel like it's a very Pacifica thing that we're really good at. Us as a people, as a culture, we're very good at storytelling, great orators, and that's what we wanted to portray in this. We're just telling stories, and the stories that people know. They're all stories that people know. This whole album is a collection of songs that we know, but also songs that people have asked for. Like, can you please record this? Like, for example, Blue by You. We've always performed it, for sure. But we've never recorded it. This is the first time that we've put it on an album. There's stuff that we know that perhaps our listeners probably thought we would never record, like John Legend. Like that was a song that this guy actually was like, man, I love their song. Let's jam their song. I said, well, let's put on the album. We love that. So let's give people an insight into our world.
Moving on to your poly upbringings. Tell us how it was like growing up for you guys in very Samoan households.
Well, as a kid growing up in South Auckland, my parents are very traditional, and they, we went to church and everything. We made sure that we did evening locals at home, and we were very family oriented. So it's your typical sort of Samoan upbringing. We grew up with the language, grew up with the food, everything. It's basically what you would expect from a normal Samoan family. The only difference is that my parents were, because they thought very traditionally, they also gave us the opportunity to express ourselves. We weren't really confined to just the home. We were able to think places outside. If we wanted to pursue something, they would fully back us, basically. So in that respect, I'm super grateful to my parents for letting us do that. Initially, they were I'd say very nervous when it came to us presenting the idea of, pursuing a career in music, because, as an island kid growing up, you want your kids to be able to do something that would provide them with stability, for the future, that sort of thing. So my parents were very nervous when it came to us saying that we wanted to be singers, because they just thought immediately, you can't make a career out of that. It's basically a hobby. But because we were so ingrained with music as kids, they fully supported it, and they said, you know what, if you think that you can make something of it, why not go for it and just go 100%. And that's exactly what we did. So even though we did come from traditional upbringings, they've adapted to what we have here in New Zealand. And, I'm super grateful for that. And look where we are now, I'm super happy, super proud. So,
and there was a similar situation to, my upbringing. We, because I don't know if you know, but we only met when I was, 18, 19, yeah. So university. So before that, I was raised on the North Shore, and over the bridge, and you say I was more of a minority in those waters in terms of the Pacific Island Maori demographic. So I had a different upbringing, very much like I would say more of a hybrid of your traditional Samoan Kiwi. Like a lot of families out there we've kind of adapted over generations. So my parents were I'm second generation born. So my parents were first generation. And so growing up in that environment, knowing the culture, but not having, I guess, a first-hand grasp on it has been a blessing in this whole journey of just being second generation, because you learn so much more about your culture, because I guess you just have more of a scope of all cultures, not just your own. But yeah. Music brought us together, I suppose.
I suppose then, like, trying to stamp your mark on the opera space, which I presume isn't, very Pacific by nature. How was it? Do you feel like your culture was a strength, and was that necessarily perceived as such?
I would have to agree, because like the things that you grow up with, especially in the Samoan culture, like things like White Sunday and having to stand up in church and do performances, do your kaulokos and everything, that sort of thing. You don't really think about it as a kid, but as you get older, and if you feel like pursuing a career in performance, that sort of stuff really sticks with you. It creates you into the artist that you end up becoming, really. So in that respect, my brother and I, we used it to the best of our abilities. We tried to remember exactly how we felt as kids, performing when we were younger, and knowing that you had your parents standing in the back who just, eyed you up and made sure that you stuck to the lyrics and everything. You sang your heart out. There was no room for being shy, basically, And every time you went up there to say your words and sing your songs, it would always be in the back saying, that sort of thing. It's that stuff that really sticks with you in your mind. So I would say that it's definitely helped with us trying to approach the operatic stage, because that's what it's all about. You just had to be yourself and just project yourself. And I've got the upbringing to thank for that.
I was going to say, I just think it's definitely an advantage, because when you're in that situation and your aunties do tell you to get up and sing, it's actually not about you. It's about the collective. It's about you representing your family, your ainga, your church group. You're representing a collective, and having that backing. Nowadays, as an adult, when you get up and sing, at very little times is it just you on stage. Most of the time, whatever stage you're walking on, it's you and your family. Though people can't see it, they're here. They're here.
That's so powerful. Moses, actually, just sticking on that whole family thing, you did buy your parents a home in 2015, and you posted about it, and you talked a bit about the hardships that you faced growing up. How was that whole process for you, and paying it forward to your parents?
It was something that was always ingrained in me when I was young, not by them. they didn't force me to do anything. It was very much a choice of mine because, you know, like a lot of families growing up, we didn't have a lot of money. We didn't have a lot of money. I didn't see it as a disadvantage, but we did have our struggles, you know, and I always made a decision. I remember this when I would have been 11, 12. I decided that I wanted to not just buy a house. I wanted to buy security. I wanted to buy security knowing that no one can just come and take away the house that we lived in, which was very prominent, you know, and still is prominent nowadays, you know. People, you know, if someone wants to sell your house and you're renting it, well, they'll give you 3 weeks, you got to get out. And if you don't have an option, well, you're sleeping in your car. For us, we were on Housing New Zealand was our only way of finding a home, like a lot of people. And so my dream was to get out of that system. The system is built for you to kind of try get out. And so I wanted to do that. And so, yeah.
Oh, that's so good. Boys, now you also host the Flavor Radio Breakfast Show, and I suppose with you not being able to travel the world and you actually staying home, you're coming now to I presume is the end of your first full year in the gig. How has it been for you guys?
It's been good. I mean, you know, the biggest difference is having to wake up at like 4:30 a.m. But you know, you get used to it. Well, I at least hope you get used to it. But it's been a good change of scenery for us. You know, it's definitely something that we're not used to. And I don't say that I am a radio host. I'm just somebody that tries to spread some positivity here and there. It's been good for us, keeping us busy during the pandemic, but it's also sort of put things into perspective for us, because as musicians, you do care about your colleagues who aren't able to be working right now, because you know our business thrives on people being present. And the fact that the pandemic stops that, you know, you really do feel for your friends who can't do that. So we're not taking this opportunity for granted. We're definitely making the most of it. And to be able to say that we've come to the end of a full year of being able to spread some vibes, spread some good music to the masses, it's very proud. It's a very proud moment for us.
You know what's been really cool about hosting a breakfast radio show like this is that we usually the people that come into the radio shows to talk about our music and whatever we're doing, but to be able to be artists who bring in other artists. You know, we've had all sorts of musicians and artists, collaborators, you know, writers, all sorts of people that, you know, we typically would never have connected with. This platform has given us that opportunity, and that has been really cool. And like Amitai was saying, during this pandemic, you know, the thing with us as performers is that we love people. We love performing to people, but the pandemic has obviously taken that away. What this radio stuff has given us is an opportunity to still perform to people, still connect to people, still talk to people, you know, still do this like Zoom chats and phone interviews. And that's the beauty of it all, you know, and as we love sharing good vibes, we love sharing stories, but we also love sharing the opportunity that we get presented with, bringing in other artists and, you know, promoting them and doing as much as we can to help them along. So, yeah.
And I guess what other better station than Flavor? You know, Polly's love to get down with a good hip hop bop. Boys, what else is on your radar now that Coming Home has been released?
Well, personally, individually, we still have our own pursuits and everything to look forward to for the next year, of course. But right now, we're just going to focus on making sure that as many people get to listen to the new album Coming Home, and just try and spread those good vibes, you know, because Lord knows we definitely need them right now. It's a tough time.
You know, there's obviously Pen is not here. You know, we did plan every year. We do Christmas concerts and stuff, and obviously we did plan to put something on. The pandemic has obviously stopped that and stopped Penny from coming back into the country. We made a conscious decision for him not to come back because he wanted to give his spot up to someone else who potentially could spend Christmas with their family. And so he's there with his wife at the moment in Europe. And so we decided actually this is the best time just to stay there, stay safe. There are a lot of families out there who would love to be reunited this Christmas but can't, you know, and we very much acknowledge that. And so the best thing that we could do, we came together and we said, what can we do to help? We said, release music, put the music out there. and let's just try to get through this together.
Sure, boys. Thank you so much for joining us, and all the best. And I have to say, I was so nervous for this interview because I was like, oh my God, what the heck? And you know, all the Lomakuas and Goingingas love your music. So my Nana and Papa were like, can you say hi to the boys if I'm
we'll say hi to Nana and Papa then. Oh, thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All
All the best. Whakatai. Fa.
Mai lava.